Welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place to chill with your friends and get your gaming goodness every Monday. My name's Dylan Blight. Joining me on the couch this week, Ashley Holdley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here. It's been a pretty good week, but let me tell you.
Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and fighters for freedom and liberty and the American dream, the best is yet to come.
Fuck Donald Trump. Yeah, so also here, Kieran Marchant.
Hey, I'm here. As confused as you are, audience members.
Yeah, I know.
It's probably more confused, honestly.
Maybe, yeah. It's a day, it's a week, it's a great time. So this is going to be a bit of a weird episode. That's fine. I don't really know what we're going to talk about, but it's definitely not. No. I was about to say we're not going to talk about next-gen consoles, but we're going to do that in a second, but not in the way that's really the way we'd like to be doing, because none of us, Explosion Network, did not get consoles early, so we can't talk about them, and this episode is coming out on Monday, Xbox comes out tomorrow, PlayStation 5 comes out on Thursday, so really, this episode is just stuck in the middle of a boring and a hard place, I feel.
We have the small independent embargo on our Xbox and PlayStation reviews. Just in general. Even though, can I say?
Embargo of release day when we buy them.
Can I say, though, scores for consoles is actually fucking dumb, right? Like...
I don't think so.
Not when the PS5's got a higher score than the Xbox.
Well, lol.
Just gonna say it.
I don't know. It depends on... I'd say... I think it's hard to rate a console at launch because then I think the score could change literally 6 months later, year later type thing. So those scores are always going to fluctuate. I think if a tech website, like a hardcore tech website, reviews, and all they do is review tech, and they're reviewing it as tech and scoring it out of simply being tech, like how's it hold up, then maybe, I don't know. But, like IGN giving it a whatever score or whatever, I don't know.
I think IGN gave the Xbox an 8. I'm like, are you giving it the 8 because it doesn't have games at the moment? Or
yeah, I think that's...
What do you...
I think...
if that's legit, because everything else they said in their review was positive, I'm just...
I think most websites have scored
confused.
the PS5 slightly higher because it has more stuff to play now than the Xbox.
Which isn't really rating... I don't know. That for me, that isn't reviewing the console. That's reviewing the launch of the console.
Again, that's what I'm saying. Like, are you reviewing it simply as tech?
Like, so do you review a computer based on the parts and how well it runs, or do you review the computer on the fact that you can play games on it? Because
it depends if you're reviewing the I know it's weird because that's what I'm saying. If you're reviewing the console as a Blu-ray player, then maybe review it something else. But IGN's reviewing it as a games console, because that's what it is. I know it's weird to compare it to a PC because a PC is used for many different things. So,
but when you're doing a PC review, you're just all a PC review generally is reviewing benchmarks and performance and how
if you're
well
reviewing
it
as a gaming product, some PC review, some laptop reviews are reviewed as productivity products. Yeah, but
that's laptop.
Yeah,
that's
but I'm saying, I don't know if there's websites that review PCs as different types of things. The only PC reviews I see are gaming reviews because...
I think a lot of PC reviews are generally the same because it's generally about it's like a car. It's about the performance of the PC, I guess, in itself and how well it does things on it. I don't know. It's just an interesting comment because, yes, there isn't anything really that's going to push the envelope for the Xbox, but at the same time... It's still, I don't know. It's a weird thing. I just find scores weird is probably my biggest thing.
If you get rid of scores, everyone's closing notes is going to be the same, which is everyone thinks that you should probably not buy an Xbox right now because it doesn't have any games. I'm not that's not me making a joke. That is the several reviews I've seen.
Consensus.
It's what everyone seems to be saying. Hold off.
The thing that balances that out then is okay, cool, but if I don't buy an Xbox now, when will I be able to buy an Xbox when I want to buy one?
I know. When are they going to have games?
Well, that's also true. That's also incredibly true.
That's the question Xbox fans have been asking for the last whole generation. Oh.
Well, I wouldn't say this whole generation. Like since like 2017 when they started just being like generation's done. See you later.
I saw someone post somewhere where they took a review for the Xbox One X or something like that, and they just crossed out One X and wrote Series X, and it read exactly the same, where they're like, the Xbox One X is super powerful, blah, 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 but there's not much to play on it at the moment. So I can't really justify spending all the money, and like it read basically the same. I mean, to be fair, I've seen PlayStation 5 reviews with people saying, hey, this thing does have a handful of games, but at the same time, there's no need to rush out for the. I think from all the reviews I've seen for both consoles, it has been there's no reason to rush out and buy either of these consoles really at the moment, because you can play Spider-Man on your PS4, you can play Sackboy on your PS4, you can play like apart from Demon Souls, like there's a couple other things. You can play all these games on your old consoles, and as cool and nifty as they are, you could probably hold out another 6 months if you really want to.
Even more, because even like stuff that's getting announced is being announced where it's like, this is a title that is for the current generation of consoles. Yes, it'll have enhancements on the next gen, but it's still not like it's new tech for stuff that's still being announced today even. So it's an interesting position to be in really for the consoles.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm getting both consoles this week. I'm keen to start forming my own opinions and not just be reading other people's stuff. As cool as it is to read other people's coverage this whole week and all this sort of thing, the thing with any new console is just, especially when it comes to the PS5, because the number one feature everyone keeps saying about the PS5 is that they keep saying the DualSense controller is indeed a game changer, and the best part of the PS5 is the controller. But you can't, like, I still can't get my head around it just by reading it. You know, everyone's like, oh, you know, the tension triggers, the way it reacts, the sounds, the rumbles. Yeah. I'm like, as cool as it is to read all these words, I need to play stuff and understand this myself to understand if it's a game changer.
Even like the sake of, you know, because of having the digital edition on Thursday when it comes out, while all my stuff is downloading, I will be just chilling and playing Astro's Playroom, because that should at least give me a really kind of
it showcases
precise
everything.
Showcase of everything the controller can do and the console can do. So yeah. I think that's the benefit of having that Playroom available on the consoles by default, is that it has that kind of showcase format for it.
I know we've talked about it on the last couple of weeks of episodes, and then we talked about like backwards compatibility stuff with the Xbox and how I was probably going to dive into some of that. I'm probably going to do that on both consoles now, because I've been reading and watching some footage of how backwards compatibility works on PS5 for PS4 games, and there's some interesting stuff there that I want to try out some games for myself, and interesting tidbits that like Digital Foundry's pointed out when it comes down to the fact that a lot of early PS4 games that were 1080p on PS4 that would struggle or just hit 30 frames, those games were 900p on Xbox One, because that's what they targeted when that game released. And that they were saying that it's weird that the PS5 actually gets the better end of the stick, because these games were 1080 on PS4, but were only 900p on Xbox, and they're not going to just magically upscale to 1080p. Whereas more recent games, because Xbox had the Series One X, of course, those games were targeting higher resolutions than even the PS4. So those games, third-party stuff, is more even ground. So there's some interesting backwards compatibility stuff I've been reading out that I'd be keen to try. I've seen someone point out, Digital Foundry made sure to point out that NAC finally runs at a solid 60 frames per second, which is backwards compatibility, which is funny, and there's a couple other things. So I've got my last next gen update this week, of course. So after weeks of talking amongst us what we would do for trading consoles, how much we was going to get, what deals we're going to try and scheme to get these consoles. So I went into EB Games this week and finally traded in 2 consoles, bunch of games, and what have you. But I've got to start the story somewhere, which is that I had paid off my Xbox Series X at JB Hi-Fi. Paid off completely, and I thought I was fine because that was my day one shipment at JB Hi-Fi.
Yeah, yep.
I go into EB Games. They're like, "Hey, you've got your Xbox is day one as well." I'm like, "No, it was like holiday." They're like, "Oh, you got bumped up." I'm like,
They didn't tell you.
I'm like, if I trade all this stuff towards my PS5, is it just better if I just continue trading more stuff and just pay off the Xbox here? It was like, yeah, probably. I'm like, yeah, I suppose that's what I'll do. So I ended up, because my Xbox order got bumped up to day one at EB Games. I've now paid off both consoles at EB Games, and I cancelled my JB Hi-Fi one, which, by the way, you couldn't do in store, even though I went in store, and then they told me to go, and you had to email someone. Nonetheless, I got it refunded. So
just to be clear, at one point you had paid off 3 consoles.
There was a period of half an hour where I would have paid off 3 consoles. Yes, that is correct. just so we're keeping up to date there. So after I traded in everything, what did I pay here? After I traded in all this stuff, I paid a difference of $104 to pay off both consoles. So whatever the maths is there, I can't remember how much it costs. $1,000.
It was a $200 deposit, right?
Huh? A minus
$200.
Yeah, so I had $200 on each console. I got a total of $900 and something trade-in value for all my consoles and a bunch of games. The trade-in value on some of this shit was actually quite fucking insane. So I took a bunch of Switch games, and I was still getting some decent money for them. So some standouts.
Yeah, they don't devalue. They never devalue.
Yeah, like there's a few things that stood out to me here with this extra trade-in deal EB Games had going. I want to point out. So this is only useful to you if you're listening on Monday, because I think this is still applicable if you go trade in on Monday. You can still get all of these deals as of Monday. Tuesday, no go. You don't get the extra trade in. But so I took a couple of DualShock 4s in, and I got $33.60 for each of those for DualShocks.
Did they test
which
them?
I thought was no, they didn't. They didn't test it. I mean, they worked. They were just
They didn't
They
test
work.
either of mine.
They might not have
when I
great
did
battery
my
life,
trade-ins.
yeah, and that was a bit dirty and gritty, and obviously the thumbs were worn down or whatever. But I thought basically $34 for a bunch of several-year-old DualShocks was pretty good trade in. $42 I got from Marvel Ultimate Alliance on Switch trading in.
This is with do point out this is with you got bonus credit because of trading it on the console and because of your level 4, level 5 membership with EB Games.
Level 4. So this is level 4 plus
I believe
extra bonus. It was like 40% or something ridiculous.
40% extra on top of it. So marketing that, they probably would have normally given you, say, $20+ for it, like just over, maybe $22, $23.
It's just crazy when you pick the right times with the right deals like these.
When you trade in correctly, definitely.
Definitely.
Other times you go in there with a whole heap of stuff and they're like, and for that pile of 10 games, we'll give you $26.
Yeah. Like,
and you're
I got $10 for God of War, which I thought was pretty good because that game sells for like $20 now because it's, whatever, Platinum Edition or whatever. $7 for Knowledge is Power on PS4 I got. I'm pretty sure I brought that for like fucking $5 or something like that. I got $12 for Uncharted Lost Legacy after I brought it for $10 earlier in the year to play it for the first time. So that worked out quite well for me. There was a couple of things that stood out to me. Last of Us Remastered I got $15 for, and again, that game sells for like $20. So it's fucking... That was great. Shadow Colossus, I got $26 for. I was like, wow, I thought that would be a lot less, but nonetheless. So yeah, I was quite happy with my trade-in. That's what I've ended up doing. I actually ended up trading my Xbox. So I traded my Xbox One S, and I ended up trading in my PS4 Uncharted edition.
What? You didn't trade in your PS4 Pro?
No, I kept my Pro.
Well, you needed your Pro for other reasons.
But no, so I'll talk about it another time. But there was a thing that pushed me over the edge, which was we discussed. If you want to hear me talk about this in more detail, go listen to last week's episode of Platinum Explosion, whatever episode that was. I can't remember the number, but talked about on that.
I believe.
Sounds about right. We talked a lot about PSVR on that, and basically Sony is fucking everyone, I think, over and kind of shooting the goose on how they're treating PSVR coming into this thing. So not only do you have to get this dongle, to be able to use the PS4 camera on the PS5 to use PSVR. And we knew that, and I was like, whatever. But then last week, there was a news story going around, and I wrote up, so it was originally posted by Upload VR, where they reported that to be able to play Hitman VR, the upcoming Hitman VR game, you'll need to boot up the Hitman 3 PS4 copy, not the PS5 copy, which means you have to make sure to buy the PS4 copy. And that they also said that to use No Man's Sky VR, they got told that you could not boot up the PS5 version of No Man's Sky VR, even though there's a PS5 version of that game coming with improvements. So if you buy the PS5 version, there's currently no downgrade options for these games, upgrade versions. So it seems like you could quite easily kind of fuck yourself into a corner of being unable to play VR. So, and then after reading Upload's VR PS5/PSVR review, where they said that there's only minimal load time increases, there's not really much improvements to PSVR games as many people had been hoping, including myself. It was kind of like, well, it seems the best option is to keep a PS4 Pro around to play PSVR because it's basically the same as having a PS5. So that's kind of my pushing edge.
Which is incredibly strange when you consider how I guess many people view the PSVR as a success for PlayStation. That you would believe that PlayStation would then plan for their future with VR being part of that.
You would think.
Whether that means using your original VR headset with your PS5, but then also being able to capitalize on the PlayStation 5's new hardware to improve the games that are already out. Like that's insane to me. Like I guess the thing that's it's interesting and I guess as a PC owner and a PC gamer for a very long time, the happy thing for me with this generation has been the fact that new consoles means improvement to your old games, because it's just been, you know, every other console that's really done like backwards compatibility never really improves on the games. It just lets you play them on a different console.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're upgrading a PC, that generally means that you can play the games you previously were playing on your crappy PC better, with improved graphics, with better frame rates, with just native improvements to it. And because of the way console gaming has been, the fact that you couldn't do that until now has been shocking. So it's really good to see that happen now, that you can now go back and games can feel like a newer, not a newer experience, but a tighter and better running experience in general.
Yeah. I honestly feel like the more and more I'm seeing gameplay of this past couple of weeks of backwards compatibility titles on both Xbox and PlayStation now, and how much better games from even the start of this last generation are suddenly playing. Like I was watching a video last night, so Just Cause 3 being played on PS5 compared to PS4, where if you did some of the mega explosion parts in that game on PS4, it was dipping below 30 frames per second, and now it's just rock solid. I think it was either rock solid 30 or 60, but even just being able to stick to that rock solid 30, and I think that's not because of the PS5 being unable to do 60, that comes down to the game having the frame rate capped to 30 in the game. And then, but the PS4 being unable to stick to it. To me, it just feels like we should have actually had another console generation earlier than this. Like, it feels like a lot. It's just, the more I'm seeing, the more I'm noticing how much games of this last generation were struggling.
Yeah, very much so. Like, that's the thing where, and that's where I almost like Xbox's point of view on this now, is about actual kind of like giving devices that'll just increase in performance, not very much being a whole separate new device with a new generation, just being an improvement in that same kind of ecosystem, because it means for the people that care, you can just upgrade your device and get a new device, but it's also going to have an impact on everything you've purchased previously. Like, and there's going to be, and I still think technology, because of how fast technology moves in terms of general computing technology, having a console generation that goes for 6 to 8 years is really not that proactive, because
not anymore.
Technology,
maybe it was at the start.
It was originally, definitely, 100%. PS1, PS2, definitely 100%. But today, in the current climate of computer technology growth and how quickly it changes, to have these massive and long kind of periods, it just means by the end of it, you are severely outdated and everything. Like, even just, the meme was always, and for people who have PCs, and pretty much everybody who has purchased a PC in the last 4 to 5 years all have SSDs in their PCs, because it's just natural to be a part of. But now it's currently the new thing for consoles is that there's SSDs in them, which is somewhat of a joke, because it's like, well, crap, why haven't this been done already? Like, why wasn't the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro released with SSDs? Like, just why weren't they?
They probably couldn't have sold them under
the Series.
They couldn't have sold them under $1,000 or something at the time. They would.
I don't know. By that point, SSDs were down low enough that it wouldn't have made that much of an impact.
I mean,
Ashley's pulling faces at me.
You could always see the thing with SSDs is that you could always just install an SSD in your PS4 if you wanted to, and it would slightly speed up the console by being able to.
But the infrastructure wouldn't take advantage of that.
Not fully.
Like the infrastructure.
No, but you could slightly increase performance.
Yeah, but it's not optimized to use those kind of drives, which is they honestly should be, and it should have been a lot long ago. It's a whole different topic but it's interesting to see if console gamers in the next 4 to 5 years are going to have to get more used to there being newer versions of their consoles being released and improving on the games that are already out.
I'm going to say now that I would say that we see a Pro model or whatever in 3 to 4 years is what I would say.
I wouldn't even say 4. I'd say
the same.
Yeah.
I'd say 3. 3 would be the sweet spot.
Yeah. I know.
Well, we'll see.
Especially when you've had a couple years for developers to get into the habits of taking advantage of the consoles and then push that limit even further. And that's where console gamers in general have to kind of be aware that, okay, am I going to be comfortable with paying, say at launch, we're paying $600, $700 for consoles? And are people okay with the fact that that's going to be 3 years to be the top console?
Yeah, people aren't going to be on board with that.
I mean,
they're going to have to.
No, it has to upgrade.
No, they don't.
If they release a PS5 Pro, it's not going to be a requirement. But I would just say it's going to be a slight improvement.
No, but then how much responsibility falls on developers to make it work on the current consoles? To not push it too far.
It would just be the same as the developers would just have to shift to being more like PC games, where PC, and it's a harder thing for developers, where they're going to have to start keeping in mind more consoles with more different specs and different abilities.
Restrictions just breed creativity.
Well,
it's much easier to do things when you're restricted.
The weirdest thing, and this is the thing that I've said several times that people just keep forgetting about this whole SSD thing, is that as much as you can be like, oh, PC gamers, blah, 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 like consoles are the home front of games, and they kind of set the standard or the default for the gaming sphere, if you want to call it that. And by this, what I mean is that as we move ahead in the years, as developers start developing for these SSDs, I've talked about this before, where we're going to see different changes. So think about a game like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order or any of these Tomb Raider games or whatever, where there's all these times where they hide loading screens by having you climb through, there's a crack through a door and you're sliding in sideways. Like, these are all just to hide loading. God of War does it as well, where you just there's all these little things to hide loading screens. Like, all this stuff you don't really think about. And all of a sudden, developers supposedly aren't going to have to think about this stuff. And that means that all consoles are going to get this, PC gamers are going to get this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not just, as much as you can be like, oh, PC gamers have had SSDs for years. They have, but they've always still just having to wait for consoles to catch up, because console is still the key gaming marketplace. PCs are always going to be ahead and have the best tech, but it doesn't matter how many GPUs and fucking 8K, PC could be up to 8K 5 years from now, but console gaming is still going to be like whatever console gaming doing is still going to be setting the bar for what's happening in game. Does that make? Do you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I understand.
PC doesn't lead. PC development doesn't lead gaming.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But that doesn't mean that the current version is correct and right.
No, to a degree,
it doesn't mean that should stay that way. In terms of just because console gaming is lagging behind, doesn't mean that they should be okay with the fact that console gaming is like that.
I mean, it's just one of those unfortunate things where because console gaming is the thing that sets the standard or whatever, but people expect to just be able to pay $600 for a box once every 6 or 7 years or whatever it is. And for some people, that's all they want to do. Like, imagine all the people like Buddy Watson, Radio Watson's Buddy Watson, who has a base PS4 up until he's only just upgrading.
I think it's going to be.
Like,
I think
imagine all the people like him. They want to pay once.
Yeah, they want to pay once, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to have. But you're not going to have. By the end of whatever you want to call it, cycle or anything, games are not going to be running well on the base models of the devices.
I don't know.
They're not going to.
I don't think you can say for sure if that's.
Yeah.
But I don't. But when I have
take note, write this down, and we'll see in 5-10 years when the next one comes out where we are.
It's not going to take 10 years for the next one to come out.
20
no
years.
Way.
Uh,
No fucking way, dude.
I mean,
There's
it looks more likely that
it'd be
it won't
silly.
be 10 years now. It might have been longer if a certain person had stayed in power because, the world would have ended. We would.
All those
Wouldn't have done
tariffs.
I
on,
just
China
think that
Yeah.
I think PC console gaming is slowly becoming more like PC gaming in its facets.
It's been like that ever since we got the Pro models because, the last console generation got the One X and the PS4 Pro, and then all of a sudden, all the games you could play on those versions gave you the option between performance and visual quality modes. Like there was two. All of a sudden, console games were given the option, two graphic quality options, which you've never seen before on console games, really. Of course, if you open PC game, you've got a million fucking knobs and fiddles and twiddles to
Drivers
fuck around
and
with.
keys and buttons and
I don't think
toolbars.
Toolbars, you love that. Eh? I don't think you'll ever see that level of options available on consoles. I think you're just going to continue to see what we're already seeing at the start of this generation, which is like several different performance options. Like I know Dirt has like 3. It's like, hey, one's like 4K targeting 60 or whatever. One's like something else. And another one's like 120 frames, but only 10, or whatever it is. Like you're going to have different options, but you're not going to have all the knobs and switches to fuck around with yourself, I don't think. But anyway, consoles, they're releasing this week.
So, again, how much did you pay? So,
$100-something for both consoles.
So really, you paid like $500 something.
You would have paid $400 between the two consoles, right?
400 deposits.
Yes.
400 in
plus 100
deposits.
and something on top.
Yeah. So
you saved like almost $900.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I got $900-something for all the trading I got.
So at the minute, I'm at the point where I don't think I'll be spending any money on just based off so I traded in just my Xboxes. I went fuck it and traded in both of my Xboxes.
Oh, that was the decision. So you got rid of the Gears of War.
That was the decision because I got to the point where I was like, honestly, I haven't loved this console enough. Like I barely used my Project Scorpio. Like I barely touched it. It collected dust. I was like, there's going to be somebody who's going to get really lucky out of an EB game store that have been looking for one of these, and they're going to get lucky from it and have a good condition.
Did the guy say anything?
Xbox
you're trading in a Project Scorpio?
No, there was a friend of mine that was at the counter, and I'd already talked about him with it before anyway. So I think I got but just for those two consoles alone, I got like $500.
Yeah.
And so that's without trading my PlayStation 4 Pro. I've got only couple $100 left on my Xbox Series X to pay off.
Yeah.
And I've just got to trade in my PS4 Pro, which should get, I'm guessing, $250-$300 for me.
When are you doing that? Tomorrow?
Considering, I don't know, because I don't know. Part of me is like, because I'm not getting my Xbox this week, part of me is like, I might just keep it, do like the transfer crap over for when I get my PlayStation 5 and then just taking it on like Friday or Saturday or something.
Because I don't know when that
That's what,
extra
it's
console
like
trade-in runs out.
$70.
The thing
or
is, I'm
something,
not
right?
using that extra. I'm not using that extra, is it? Because that extra is only for peripherals and stuff.
No. There was 2 deals. So deal 1, trade in a console towards a console, get extra trade-in value. I think that runs out this week. At some point.
It'll be this week.
Yes.
It'll be some point this week.
The other deal runs out on Monday.
It might get to me on. It might get to me on like freaking. I might be boxing up my PlayStation tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because when I checked of the console deals, they were only. All the console deals seemed to be just based on their normal trade-in values. Like there wasn't anything special on them.
No. So there was 2 deals. So the second one runs out on Monday, which was the extra trade-in value for games or accessories traded with your console. But then you also got extra trading value for your console if you traded them towards a console pre-order. It was rather confusing, and you had to be keeping up with all the stuff. But they announced the console trading deal like a month or 2 ago, whenever it was. That one's been around for a while.
I might because when they initially did it, when the initial pre-orders came up, they were for the digital version anyway. They were like, you only like it'll be this much for a trade-in.
Yeah.
But that was for like a PS4 Slim, like it was.
But you could do every console had extra trade.
Every console for
they
it.
would just
Yeah.
they just advertise
So
the highest model, like how you.
that's okay. I might.
Yeah.
That's okay. I might just box up my PlayStation tomorrow then and take it and be like, here, have it.
We'd have to go a couple days without a console. Will you survive?
Yes, because I'll just
You've got Overwatch.
use
It's fine.
my. A, I've got Overwatch, but B, I'll just use my the major loss would honestly be like the YouTube apps and stuff, but I can just use my TV or Chromecast or whatever.
Kieran, advice: make sure you upload all your cloud saves.
Yeah.
You know what? I found out the problem with that. I did some research because I was looking at the day for the setting. It's because I don't have my PlayStation set as my primary PlayStation. It doesn't automatically do it.
There you go.
There we go.
That is.
There we go. That's the problem. Man.
Yes,
That is the problem.
How
mate.
dare they have such rules to stop people from abusing
from sharing games?
stuff? Yes.
Sharing PS Plus, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really. I'm not sharing PS Plus. I don't think. I think so. Otherwise, we're just paying for it on 2 accounts.
No, I don't think you can share it. But
No, I don't think we're sharing it. It's just literally as if, you know what? It's like the luxury of being able to hand my disc to my dad and be like, here, play a game using this disc, but with a digital license. It's fine.
sure. Let's talk about some other stuff. Even though I said there's not much we want to be talking about.
I don't know if it was in your notes or not. Do you find it interesting that PlayStation came out and said you're not going to be able to buy a PS5 in retail stores?
And no. I thought, like, honestly, when I saw that story, I was like, that's what I thought anyway. Like, I don't know. It seemed
Wait,
like
as in like on launch day?
Yeah.
Or just in general?
In general. At least for the rest of this year.
In general, for the foreseeable future.
For the rest of this year, yeah. Fuck yeah. Same for both consoles.
Yeah.
You pre-order it and you get your ticket to wait in line for whenever one comes in, I guess.
They're like, there's no consoles going to be on store, so you can just walk in and buy one. Which reading between the lines is, I think, just targeted mostly at bigger cities, especially America, where if they said there was going to be, if a store like GameStop or whatever in America was like, hey, we're going to have like 10, and then all of a sudden there's like 100 people lined up with no masks fucking rushing into GameStop early in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like the smart decision.
But then also, like, it kind of avoids Black Friday being
an option
when it comes to consoles. It's not an option for consoles anymore.
That's not
like it'll be my advice would be
maybe they should just cancel Black Friday this year.
Yeah.
Most likely would be a good idea. But my advice to be to anybody, if you were to walk in and you didn't have a console, you were waiting on a console, and you walked in one day and one of the stores said, hey, we've had somebody cancel a pre-order, we've got one back. You open up your fucking wallet and you pay for it right then and there and you take it. Because that is like...
Remember how I said I went into JB and I couldn't cancel it? And the reason is because they don't send the console to the store anymore. So I think that's all part of it. So I had to cancel it online so they would not send the console to the store. Or if the console was already coming to the store, then it would get reallocated and sent back to a warehouse or a different store, or someone could order it online or whatever. So they're not going to have any of these consoles sitting around. At least that's what I picked up from JB. Yeah.
Yeah, stores are getting exactly what the stock that they've been allocated.
Yeah, and nothing more. Makes sense. I don't think it's
good.
Anything to
But anybody holding out hope that they could walk into a store and pick one up, sorry.
Oh, you're...
Rip.
Don't know what you're smoking, but
Yeah.
And if you see a video online of somebody doing that, it's probably fake.
True. All right, so obviously November, big games month. We're talking about the consoles that are all releasing later this week, and that's primarily all the big games coming out are related to new console launches. But I wanted to run down the article I put up last week for some of the games I thought were worth pointing out this month. If there's anything at the end of this, if there's any game I missed out that you're excited about that I haven't mentioned, dump it in at the end. So, firstly, Dirt 5, it's out. It came out the other day. Came out, Friday, I think it is. But I think a lot of people were probably put off picking this one up until they could pick it up for their next-gen console because it is on everything. This is basically, in case you forgot, Dirt 5 looks like Forza. It's created by the people who did Dirt Club, On Riders, whatever. On Rush, sorry. Not On Riders. On Rush, Troy Baker plays your villain in the game. Your mentor is played by Nolan North, so you got an star cast here. From the reviews that went out at the end of last week, at least for current gen hardware, everyone was giving it pretty good reviews, so that's good to see. I think I'm not going to pick that up first week, but it's something I would like to still get around to playing. I know that, but the thing is, I know without having to spend money, I am going to re-download Forza Horizon 4 on my Series X on launch day because that is getting a patched, updated, and enhancements to 4K, higher frame rates, and all these sorts of things. So that will be really good, especially because when I played it on my 1S. I didn't have on 1X, so I never had and it was still beautiful and ran well and whatever else. So, but either way, the jump is going to be quite an improvement. So I'm looking forward to that. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is out on. It's out on Tuesday, right? Yeah, the launch day of Xbox.
Yeah, it's launch day.
Yep, so it comes out in tandem with Xbox, and then if you want to pick it up on PlayStation, you have to wait a couple of days. Or you can pick it up on PS4 that day if you want to. I'm going to pick this up. I think, this is the thing where between Watch Dogs and this coming out a week apart from one another, there's, one Ubisoft game had to hit the ground. So, are you picking this up, do you reckon?
I've already said that I'm not picking this up until my Xbox, so that'll be December. So I've got enough time to get, and that's even then. December is Cyberpunk month.
Currently,
not touch wood. Currently, so yeah, it'll be something whatever I play on my Xbox. So whenever that is.
Yeah. Ash, do you have any care for this, or are you Ubisoft out?
Yeah, it's lower on the list. Amazon's dropped the price down to $68.
Quite low.
So
I think
it's tempting.
I'm actually pretty excited, looking forward to this game with recent kind of announcements for it and reviews for it. Not reviews, but trailers and stuff for it. I think hearing people talk about how the missions or the chapters or something are kind of cut down into portions that are this will probably take this will be one kind of self-enclosed story that'll take you a couple hours, and that sounds perfect for me because that sounds like it's a little kind of bite-sized chunk to you do that and then you use your quick resume to bounce into something else if you want to play something else on the Xbox. Really it sounds fun. Sounds good.
Next game I had here was Yakuza Like a Dragon. Ash, one of your most anticipated games of the year. We've talked about it several times, but do you want to explain why you're excited for Yakuza Like a Dragon?
I mean, it's Yakuza, but it's going to be turn-based, which is more accessible, I guess.
To you?
Yeah. Much easier. I feel like an easier way to get into it. And it sounds like an easy way to get into the Yakuza franchise rather than...
Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, try out Kiwami or whatever it is, but I'm like... It's 50 hours. There's 6 games after that. So this is the first one with new characters. So
giant lobsters falling from the sky.
True. This game's summons are ridiculous, to put it bluntly. It looks like fun.
Although again, clarify, it's not coming to PS5. It's only PS4.
Yeah, and it's supposed to come to PS5 next year.
PS5 March next year.
Yeah. But you can put your PS4 disc in your PS5, yes.
I can, yes.
Yes. It's so confusing. Well, it's not really confusing, but to people who aren't keeping up, I feel like it just is silly. Next game was Demon's Souls. So recording this on Sunday night, they dropped a state of play like at 1 a.m. Sunday morning or around that time. 12 more minutes of Demon's Souls footage to check out. The game looks very pretty. They talked about in the state of play earlier this morning about how they've kept the source code from the game and built upon that. Made sure everything like enemies animations are the same or whatever, so people who played the original aren't going to feel like their attacks or the enemies play any different, especially the boss battles. So long-time fans are supposedly going to feel at home. They also talked about, of course, drilled up the dual sense features of casting spells and it feeling really cool and all these sorts of things. But one thing they said they actually added to the game was a bunch of new sound effects and stuff because of the PS5's temporal 3D audio engine, which is one thing I haven't seen many people talk about in their PS5 reviews. And I don't know if that's because of the games they've had access to haven't really taken advantage of it just yet, or it's something they haven't had much time to explore. But like I watched a video where they showed all the settings for the PS5, and in there they do have the whole set up your profile for your 3D audio. Because, when Mark Cerny talked about it, it's supposed to be able to set your profile or whatever. So some interesting things. Demon's Souls looks cool. Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales, all of us are going to be playing this. Of course, reviews came out for people this past week. Everyone says it's more Spider-Man goodness for the most part, so that's good. I'm sure we're all looking forward to jumping into this. Looks very pretty. Ray tracing in Spider-Man. 2 options for this game, by the way. I'm not. I think I'm going to be playing with ray tracing on at 30 frames per second because I quite enjoy ray tracing, but I can't help but notice, because I saw comparison videos, and the 60 frames per second mode just looks so much smoother. And I'm sure in like high combat mode, intense action scenes, the 60 frames would be a benefit. But
it's fine.
The ray tracing, I can't.
You won't notice. You'll get too engrossed in the story.
You will notice.
I mean, I'll only notice if I switch.
See, it's your own fault for looking up what the 60 frames per second look like. Because if you didn't know what it looked like, then you wouldn't care.
Ashley is a
ignorance is a bliss sometimes,
Ashley is he's over there with his 720p fucking TV, being like, "Oh, my TV wouldn't even handle this."
It's funny because I would have sounded like Ash like when I was like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
before I definitely when I was just a console player, as they say, and then once I explored with PC games more and got an understanding of frame rates, and once you dip your toes in certain waters, and it's hard for you to not care about these sorts of things.
Definitely is.
Yeah.
Especially when it's even small things. People that don't like they released the trailer like the start of this week about the Miles Morales, like the Into the Spider-Verse suit being in it, and one of the things they've done with that suit is an animation where it copies the frame rate from the movies.
It does my head in. I don't think I could play with it on. It was giving me making me dizzy.
It'd probably give me like, I'll probably be like 5 minutes, and I'll be like, that's enough for me. Even like I'm like, it's a really cool effect.
But people who don't care about frame rates and don't notice that, they'll be able to watch it fine.
I don't know how, because
but then you can't. If you don't notice it, then you can't appreciate how cool it looks, because it does look pretty cool.
It looks cool, but
it was like the movie. So
my brain was disagreeing with the video. It's like one of those things where my brain was like,
especially when everything else around him is running at a different frames and he's running it. It's like my brain's like, nah, that doesn't look right. That looks wrong. Stop.
Next game I had on here was The Pathless. So this is a PS5, PS4, and Apple Arcade game that all comes out on launch day of PS5 on this Thursday.
It's on Xbox as well, isn't it? Or is it a timed exclusive?
I don't know if it's a timed exclusive, but it's certainly some sort of exclusive for now. This is the one where they showed up several times before, where it's like an open world. There's no fast travel. You play as a person with a bow and arrow. You shoot things. You've got an eagle. There's monsters to take down, souls to hunt, stuff like this. You've got to defeat the curse of some island. Looks cool. Very pretty. Nice graphics. Splashy things. Flashy, splashy things. Looks intriguing. Keen to try it out. Ash is like, as soon as I said something's on Xbox, Ash went to confirm that because he's like, I need that point. Need to swing that point. Next game I had on here is Bugsnax talking about Bug Snacks.
Bug Snacks.
We're talking about Bug Snacks tomorrow. My review will be up Tuesday morning. I can't remember the official Bargo time. I think it's like 1 a.m. Tuesday or something like that.
Can you confirm, Dylan, you can find them in the sand or tearing up a ketchup patch?
Yes, I can confirm that you can do those things in Bug Snacks. I don't think that's breaking embargo. So look for my review, Bug Snacks. Ash has been playing it as well. He can't talk about it. We can't talk about it. Kieran, are you gonna try about Bug Snacks? It's PS Plus game. So.
I was already, if it wasn't a part of PS Plus, I probably would have bought it. So
saving you some money.
It was saving money. I'm definitely playing it. It was on my list of things to look excited for and looking forward to. So it'll be something nice to jump into.
Bug Snacks.
I will say, like, even though I put on my review, I'm going to jump back in on PS5 because I'll go back and re-edit my review for it. Like, I'll add a little section about the PS5 because there's just, they did put out a trailer in the week where I completely blanked on. They're like, oh, you know, the DualSense takes full advantage of certain things in the game or whatever else. I'm like, oh, now I'll have to run around and try out these sorts of things. So I'll be playing it again. Maybe if they put out a separate trophy list, I'll platinum it twice. I don't know. So Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War.
Spoilers.
What?
Spoilers that you platinumed it.
I know, I never said I platinum. I said I will platinum it twice. See?
You said you're platinuming it again.
Read between the lines. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War comes out on the day after the PS5 launch, which is still, it's just kind of odd, but can't just move it up, put it out launch day. Fucking let people get everything in once in the stores. Why do they have to come back next day? Nonetheless, so Call of Duty Black
Trying to promote coronavirus?
Yeah, no.
Jeez.
Just buy it digitally.
Well,
Just digital buy it.
Digitally. I'm going to be getting in this Call of Duty. Going to jump in, shoot some people. I feel it's so weird because years ago I was definitely not a Call of Duty person, and over the last couple of years I've just become a Call of Duty person somehow. I'm not even a big fan of the franchise.
It's interesting.
I just keep playing them.
I'm interested that Call of Duty is currently at the center of the storage discussion for
because it's like 130 gigabytes or something ridiculous.
It's like 130 gig for the. I wish the game would just be like, hey, it should let you be like, hey, are you going to play the multiplayer? No. Do you want me to just download the single player, please? Because that would be.
I'm going to assume it actually will, and they just haven't said that yet.
I hope so. That'd be really cool.
Because I know on the current one they let you choose. You could delete certain things. They ended up because the Call of Duty, whatever the Black Ops, whatever the current one is,
Modern Warfare.
Yeah, that one.
Modern Warfare is the current one.
Yeah, they let you delete parts eventually. So I'm assuming they will. Last two games, not new console related, so easy to forget these things are coming out. But Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory comes out on the 12th as well. By the way, in case you forget that's a thing, this is a PS4, Xbox, Switch game. It is the rhythm-based Kingdom Hearts game where Kairi is recalling events of the franchise and you play them out to some fancy Kingdom Hearts music. Looks like fun. I want to play it. Don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon because everything else we've been talking about this show.
Again, I don't think it's anything you'll need to play right now. There probably will be small special spoilers as all random Kingdom Hearts spin-offs would do because they're not spin-offs, they're all part of the main fucking story.
I can guarantee there'll be something in this that's like, oh, here's this one cutscene that you need to watch to keep up with the fucking.
Yeah, so my plan is not to play this until Kingdom Hearts 4 is about to come out. Yeah. Because this will recap the entire series and I'll remember everything.
Yeah, maybe. That's true. Kingdom Hearts 4 in 2036. Looking forward to
20 years, I was going to say. It's going to be
PS7, yeah.
I'm going to play this at some point because I do like Kingdom Hearts music and I do enjoy rhythm games, so this ticks a bunch of boxes. And the last game is Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, comes out on the 20th this month. Of course, this is it's the weird one because it's like a sequel to the original Hyrule Warriors, but not really.
It's not.
It's just the next.
It's definitely not Breath of the Wild 2.
No, well, it's a Breath of the Wild prequel, and it's the second Hyrule Warriors game. But the first Hyrule Warriors.
So the interesting thing I've heard is it starts after the calamity, but then some creature goes back in time to try to stop the events of the calamity. So there could be some kind of
You're saying it's a Breath of the? Are you saying it's a Breath of the Wild sequel?
No, they're not going to fuck up the Zelda timeline even more, are they?
Yeah, so this is Endgame.
Spoilers.
Ugh. Well, no, because I don't know if you know this, Ash, but the Zelda timeline is already fucked. Like, it is disgusting.
I just assume they start with a new canon every time.
No,
Zelda has like 4 or 5 timelines in it, and it's fucking disgustingly. There's a whole book about it.
They officially canonized the timelines a couple of years ago when they put out I can't remember the book's name, but it was like a Zelda history.
It's like an art
book
or something. It was like an anniversary art book or something.
But they officially were like, hey, these are all the games that connect to one timeline. These are all and it lines up. It's like, hey, if in this game you defeat Ganon, then it goes to this timeline. If Ganon defeats Link in this timeline, it goes to this other timeline, blah, 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 blah. So there is Zelda lore.
There's a Zelda multiverse. So this is just another
exactly
multiverse. It's all good.
Yeah.
People are used to multiverses now.
It's good, but I made sure to put Horror Warriors on here because it does look like a fun game, exciting game, and didn't want to leave the Switch out just because every other.
It is Nintendo's attempt to be like, hey, we're still relevant this week, by the way, guys.
Well, I mean, for people who aren't getting consoles who are Nintendo fans, they don't care about 100%. New console launches. They're like, whatever, I'm not getting one anyway because I'm a Nintendo fan. I have Zelda to play this month, so I should be excited. And as we pointed out a couple weeks ago, it's very easy to dismiss that Nintendo has been pretty good at slowly putting out games. Pikmin literally came out last week and that got a bunch of great reviews. And I would like to play it if I had the time. I think it looks like a bunch of fun. And then Zelda's coming out this month. So there's always something. There's always Horror Warriors. I keep saying Zelda, whatever. You know what I mean. Horror Warriors. You know, the one where you play as Zelda and not Link. Link's the princess you save in the castle. Love, yeah. Right, let's get into some news, couple pieces of news to discuss this week. And by couple, I literally mean a couple. So firstly, Medium. There's 2 stories connected to this. Let's do it in order of events that happen. So firstly, PC Gamer wrote, the Medium has been refused classification in Australia they originally wrote on 6th of July, the IIRC, International Age Rating Coalition, tool classified the Medium with RC, refused classification. The tool has generated a refused classification decision in accordance with Australia's classification criteria from input submitted by the developer. Then they wrote an update to the story and said the Australian Classification Board has sent through a statement regarding the Medium's banning in Australia. It doesn't shine light on the reasons for the ban on a content level, but it does confirm that Bloober Team's IARC submission breaks an unspecified rule. The Australian Classification Board itself has not received an application for the game. So broke an unspecified rule. That is interesting. I don't know what it means, but it doesn't really matter.
How can a rule be unspecified?
I don't know. And I was going to stress out about this, but then yesterday or whatever it was as a recording.
There's a reason you
listen. The classification board had like mystic visions of what rule they might be breaking, but they couldn't exactly nail it down. The visions are a bit unclear.
The other problem for the classification board, in theory at the minute, is that any game that's on Xbox Game Pass does not give a fuck about classification because it's like, it's part of a subscription. It's fine. We're not selling
until
it.
Australia works out how to start.
And still Australia, fixes its shit together.
I would put it past them. So I was a bit worried about not being able to play the Medium because the game looks cool and it was one of Xbox's only Xbox titles that was coming up in
and we're all big Patricia Arquette fans, yeah.
Yes, Patricia Arquette, big fans. But then Eurogamer wrote, Bloober Team's dual reality, the horror medium, has been delayed until January. Laser Fear and Observer developer Bloober Team has delayed its upcoming third-person psychological horror, The Medium, which will now make its way to Xbox Series XS and PC on the 28th of January next year, rather than its originally announced release date of 10th of December. In a statement posted to Twitter, Bloober, sorry, I always say Blooper because my brain just wants to autocorrect, but it's Bloober. I'm so sorry. Bloober Team explained it had made the decision to delay the Medium's release, quote, after careful thought and consideration. It wasn't an easy decision to make, but ultimately it felt like the right move given the COVID-19 situation in Poland, as well as the current schedule of other games on the market, which is, read between the lines, it was going to release awfully fucking close to Cyberpunk 2077, and they were like, you know what? No rush now.
Peace out, homies.
Come back next month.
We'll see you in a month. Bye.
Yeah, pretty much, which is kind of funny. That's 2 games.
Why are you leaving?
That have moved out of the way of Cyberpunk. between that and what was the one the
Path of Exile moved its update.
So
yeah. I think there was a third, and I can't remember what the fuck it was, but there was something.
I've only seen these two, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I can't remember.
I was looking forward to playing this. I'll play it in January, I guess. That's the thing. Kieran, was you had any cared about this?
I was gonna play it just for the sake of something to play on Xbox, but also, I need to start. I want to get better with scary games because I'm not the greatest with scary games. So I need to bump myself up on the Nando scare seasoning meter. Yeah, try out.
You're doing January now, so.
Doing January, yeah, exactly. It's not as scary in January. January is not really a scary month, right?
I know it kind of fits that Resident Evil spot for the last couple of years because I don't think Village is coming out in January. So
no, that usually be coming out like March, end of February, weren't they? The last couple of months,
no. It's always about like January 28th ish is when Resident Evil generally has been coming out.
All right, next story. Square Enix has reported its financials for the first half of this current fiscal year, and it appears Marvel's Avengers didn't sell well as the company estimated, writes VG247. According to the financials, only major releases such as Final Fantasy VII Remake and Marvel's Avengers provided an uptick in revenue for the first half of the year. While an uptick in revenue is always good, it doesn't seem as though Marvel's Avengers brought in as much revenue as the firm would have hoped. In the first half of the fiscal year, when Final Fantasy VII Remake released, the publisher's game division reported $34.1 billion in net sales and an income of around $10 billion. Compared to the second quarter where Marvel's Avengers released, the game's division saw net sales of $23.7 billion and a loss of more than $5 billion in operating income. While Square Enix didn't provide sales figures for Marvel's Avengers, Tokyo-based game video analyst David Gibson said, quote, volumes were 60% of plan and that the game only sold around 3 million copies based on a perceived $100 million budget. The game's next-gen release was recently moved to 2021 to ensure it gives the team time to deliver a next-gen experience, showcasing all that the game is meant to be. Alongside the game, the team also pushed Kate Bishop DC to an unknown date. I'll report. So this game, and obviously I never picked it up or played it, so I'm interested to get how you are feeling about it coming into this next generation. But so I feel like the reviews when it came out, everyone was kind of like, some people were enjoying it, but even the people who were enjoying it were probably only giving it 7s. I feel like no one was like in love with this game. And over the last couple of months, it doesn't really. I've seen the people who cared about the game on my Twitter, at least, have, I feel, slowly, continually fallen out of love with it, where the post-game content wasn't able to keep up or entertain them or the way like a Destiny or whatever the games that have succeeded now. So, and the game obviously didn't sell as much as people thought it would because they always thought this game was going to sell like hotcakes because Avengers must make money, but I think a lot of people still weren't on board with the cast or just the overall.
The games for the service kind of model for it was the biggest problem.
I think it was marketing more than anything else. So I felt
Very
like
much,
for a lot of people, they didn't know what the game was.
I think if they had spent
it.
more time and more focus on the campaign of it and less time on showing that it's how much of a game for a service is, I think it would have done much better. Because I think, honestly, even if you weren't wanting to play the game for a service, I think the campaign itself is very good. It was a game that once I put a decent amount of time into it in that first week and a half that I had it, I quickly put it on pause because I was like, I feel like this game will run like a billion times better on next-gen consoles. I'm going to hold off and I'll jump back into it once next-gen consoles are here because for me, it was a solid game. I would give it a 7. And it was at the point where, and I think I do this with, and I think a lot of people do this with games for a service because I think in the history of games, there's never been a game for a service game come out good. Like there's just never been one that's come out and instantly been like hit the spot, which you would think after time, more people would like, they'd know what they have to do to make that happen, but it just never seems to come off. Like there always seems to be bugs or problems. But with this one, it's a case of, hey, as soon as Square came out and Crystal Dynamics came out and said, hey, we're going to pause like the new content until this game's all right to go. And I think that was a side to say, hey, give it a rest, come back to it later, which is a bad thing. And it happens for a lot of these games where, and we'll know in a year or two if the game is successful, if the game actually still has a community or not, because Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix are very committed, or they seem to be committed to ongoing content for this game, especially with the amount of kind of DLC they have, like free DLC for the game. I'm interested to see exactly how the game goes and what support is, and I hope Crystal and Square decide to kind of. I don't even think they have a choice not to kind of try and force this to be a success. The amount of money they must have put into it, and the amount of, especially just with their voice acting cast, has to they have to try and find a way for it to succeed.
How are you feeling about it, Ash?
Yeah, it might be something I go back to on next gen, especially we know it's going to be a free upgrade, so I think I definitely won't be trading or anything, but yeah, I kind of just dropped off and haven't gone back since. I can definitely see it having a life though on next gen, on continue, especially with all the DLC they're planning to put out. It definitely feels like it could have a second life or breathe new life into it with each of these DLCs. It could have a very long tail. Yeah. Maybe people just did want to pay full price for it up front. Again, I don't think the marketing around the game was great. Explaining exactly what it was, I think a lot of the good sales were probably more to do with word of mouth than any marketing or anything to do so, or just name recognition. Because that's the only way you can explain why Spider-Man sold like hotcakes and Avengers didn't. Because we all knew what Spider-Man was and how that game played, but nobody knew how Avengers played. So
even when we were talking about it when playing the section that they showed at E3 compared to watching that section they showed at E3,
playing it in context.
In context, two extremely different experiences. Like I was like, this is boring, I don't care at E3. Playing it, I was like, this is the fucking hypest shit in the world. This is so cool. There's all this shit happening going on around at the same time. I'm pumped. It's just, it's one of those things where they haven't done a very good job leading up to it.
All right, last news story is mainly just the big news story that's not next gen related from this past week, which was the long rumored kind of worst kept secret, the last worst kept secret, I would say. Mass Effect Legendary Edition has been announced. So Press Start writes, perhaps the worst kept secret in gaming following the Fable reboot. BioWare has announced overnight that Mass Effect Trilogy will be coming to next generation of consoles sometime next year. While not remakes or a reimagining of the game, the team has been hard at work at updating pretty much every visual aspect of the game to modernize the experience. The goal of the package is to ensure that new players can experience the original work in its best possible form. Mass Effect Legendary Edition contains all single-player content, both base game and downloadable from Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, and Mass Effect 3, all promotional weapons, armors, and packs previously only available through promotions such as pre-orders and the Cerberus network, newly remastered visuals including improved textures, shaders, models, and effects optimized for 4K Ultra HD, improved frame rates, and forward compatibility for both PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. While no proper footage was shown, the package was confirmed for PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. Casey Hudson and the team at BioWare promised more updates in the new year. Does this excite anyone, and will you be diving back into the Mass Effect universe?
Yes.
Yes?
Like, I'm actually, like, it was not something that if you'd maybe asked me a week or two ago, or when we spoke about it previously, I wasn't high. The moment I watched the trailer and I thought about it today, I was like, holy fuck, I'm in. Like, I'm so excited to play through all three of these again. I'm excited to see how much of an improvement Mass Effect 1 is going to be, because that game has not aged well at all. Like, that game's really hard to go back and play. Like, a lot of people that look back and who are fans of the trilogy often look at that and go, no, just start at Mass Effect 2, and just Mass Effect 2 comes with options where you just get to make the choices that impact the rest of the game. Where they're like, just start there. Don't worry about Mass Effect 1.
I never played 1 because,
because it was on. It was never on PlayStation. Yeah. So I think definitely play Mass Effect. I love Mass Effect 1. Like, if it wasn't for like the Mako missions, I hope they somehow fix those and make those a bit better. But It ran really rough, and the controls are a bit rough for the time. So if that gets improved, and that the still Mass Effect 1 is so much fun. Like I can't wait to jump back in and play with my buddies Garrus and Rex again. Like it's just like it's from where we have the present day where these games are all these games that feature kind of your party and getting to know your party and interacting with them and romancing options and side quests for all your party members and stuff like that. For me, my love for those kind of games started with Mass Effect 1. So I'm really excited to play it again, especially on next gen consoles. I think it's going to be really cool.
Ash, have you played any Mass Effect games?
I have not played a Mass Effect. Oh no, I played a little bit of Mass Effect 1, but maybe like an hour or two. But then
So would this
never got into it.
Would you get into this?
I think, but I figure I'd probably get a try depending on what else is out
At the time.
around that time.
That's the thing. Yeah, definitely.
hard to
Judging
predict,
what
so-
else is there, because it's 3 games.
Yeah,
pretty
it's a big commitment.
decent-sized
It's
games.
like multi-hour games. Again, I know that obviously Mass Effect 1 plays very different to Mass Effect 2. So whether it sounds from this, it's a remaster, so it's unlikely that it's going to change too much.
They never listed anything about changing gameplay. They simply listed visual improvements and
yeah, it sounds like, hey, we need to. This definitely feels like the Andromeda was bad, so we need to put out something people will like about Mass Effect. Although they really could have included Andromeda in part of this because that game needs a remaster as well. So
If they included Andromeda, it would be, hey guys, we're releasing the Mass Effect trilogy and
bonus.
Andromeda. And Andromeda.
Bonus. Pre-order bonus, get Andromeda.
it's fun. There's some people that love
Or-
that game, and it's like
I don't
from
understand how.
people. But from what I read, because I tried playing it, and I played it for like I don't know 6 to 8 hours or something, and I kind of dropped off. I was enjoying the story fine. I wasn't in love with it or hating it, but the reason it never grabbed me is just because like the gameplay. I don't know. Like I feel like Mass Effect's gameplay was showing its bad side. Like the shooting was never great.
Well, I think the shooting in 2 and 3 were fantastic.
I think you'll be surprised.
Like the
when
shooting
you go
in
back.
1's bad.
They're very very stiff characters to play as, and it's not. It's just, I think you'll be surprised when you go back. I don't know.
It's not a fast-paced shooter though. It's
No, it's a cover-based shooter, but it just but the times you suddenly need to turn around or like someone comes from behind you, the game's like, oh, this is horrible. So I'm surprised they didn't try and fix that one up because I feel like the biggest complaints that game had at launch was technical issues for Andromeda.
Like this could have. Well, Andromeda. This trilogy also could have had the freaking. The Mafia kind of attempt to it, where we're like, we're going to redo number 1, leave 2 and 3 as they are, roundabouts. Like 3 is a whole other can of worms because of the whole fiasco with
the ending.
They bottled the ending and then came out and tried to release for DLC to fix the ending, and it was like, just
I don't know if I'll
stop.
put this out on record, but I'm going to put it out now so everyone knows how I feel about it. Dylan, Blight, myself, and I liked the Mass Effect 3 ending.
Boo.
You see, no, you know what? I would like the Mass Effect 3 ending more if they hadn't bottled it and released the DLC.
I hate that they released the DLC because I hate that they changed the
watch it, 'cause
ending
it's
because
like,
a bunch of people cried about it. Fucking
Yeah, stand by your conviction.
stand by your artistic
and-
creation and fucking
Yeah, stand by it. Say this is the story that you wanted to write and you wanted to give us, even though the end choices were like the same thing and they were kind of pointless. But
it was their story, it was their trilogy, and then they changed it because a bunch of people cried into it.
Exactly. At the same time, still, yeah, it's part of the internet baby rage that has affected so many things already since that time.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. So I guess I would fall into that answer of I would be interested in playing this depending on what else is happening at that time. I love Mass Effect 2. I think Mass Effect 3 is a great game. I think Mass Effect 2 is an amazing game. Because I never played 1, but I never really missed it because I heard so many people talk about on podcasts I was listening to at the time. I Wikipedia'd the entire plot before the game came out. And of course, then I played the interactive comic. So although I never played it, I feel like I have an understanding of all the mining and stuff. Like I've heard people complain about the mining so much in that game that I understand and feel like I've done it myself to a degree. And I've read the entirety of the plot and done the comic book thing. So I don't know if I would be like, oh, now I can finally play it. Like I don't have that feeling of, oh, this is finally my chance to go play Mass Effect 1. And as for replaying the other games, I'm not in love with replaying those games because similar to how I feel about Telltale games in that I know what characters I had live and die in those games, and I have my very Mass Effect 2 to 3 experience, and in my head I've only ever played those games once, so I have just my Mass Effect experience, and I would hate to replay them and have a different outcome. Like I don't actually want a different outcome because I was happy with everything that happened when I played those games. Like some characters died and it was very sad and I cried at a certain character's death in Mass Effect 3, but it is what it is and I live with it and moved on. But that's what I remember most about those games is the sad and happy moments. So I'm not fussed about replaying them, honestly. Like again, the other thing of this whole N7 day was they were like, hey, we're working on a new one, which everyone took as new news, but I'm like, they teased this last year. Like I'm pretty sure we all knew this was happening, but whatever.
It's one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, what else would you be doing with the Mass Effect franchise and licensing?
Yeah. Like you're working on Dragon Age and you're working on Mass Effect. They're like, the Mass Effect's ages away, and people are like, oh, when? Like a couple of years? I'm like, no, like a couple of years after this Dragon Age game releases, and that Dragon Age game is probably still a couple of years away. So you'll be waiting a while for that brand new Mass Effect game. I'm afraid to say. Will be interesting when they reveal more details to see if they just completely scrap the whole Andromeda idea and maybe come back to the Mass Effect trilogy's original system and interweave more canon and characters from that event. I don't know. Maybe they could put a teaser at the end of the third one in this by the time it comes out, even though the games would be years away. I don't know. That would be a cool thing.
Maybe they're add an epilogue.
Yeah. All right, so last thing we'll talk about this week before we wrap it up and hand it over to the Xbox releasing tomorrow. Kieran, you've picked up Watch Dogs. You said you picked it up after we recorded last week. So, what are your Watch Dogs?
FOMO strikes again.
Ash is
influencer. I wouldn't even subject it to Ash. It was just because I was doing my pre-orders for the PlayStation 5 just so I have everything. I don't have to order or buy anything on Thursday when it comes out. I'll just plug it in and be like, download these ones, please. And it'll be like, yes. And with the Watchdog Legion PlayStation 5 one, you get a free version of the PS4 one. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to play the PS4 one a little bit just so I have a mental comparison to something on the PS5. Just so I have the comparison to what changes, how it's improved, whatever. And so, yeah, I've been playing it. It's, as Ashley said, it's extremely Ubisoft. It's probably more Ubisoft where it's just like, hey, there's like just random like little iPads with money credits on it that you could find that are just scattered everywhere. But it doesn't really tell you that that's what that is. You just go up to the marker and it's like, oh, these, and you're like, oh, okay, this is that. And there's so it's that collectathon. The whole character idea is cool, except for I feel like I've found a character that's made the character feature redundant for me, because by completing one of the boroughs, it gave me a spy character that comes with a James Bond car, and I was like, why would I use anybody else? Like she takes like less physical damage and stuff. The James Bond car goes invisible and shoots missiles. I'm like, why do I need any other characters now? I'm great.
Because other characters are good at doing other stuff.
No, they're all. She can do everything.
Other bit of hacking everything.
No, I'm fine at the minute. She's got a silenced pistol. You just, if the stealthing goes wrong, I haven't lost the character to permadeath yet.
Oh, you're leaving that on.
I have left it on because it excites me. Really lucky
look
that
forward
it doesn't
to Spy
actually
dying.
Well, it's one of those things where, and lucky for it actually doesn't start the permadeath for like 3 or 4 missions in. it's like the sign comes up and says, hey, permadeath isn't enabled until this mission. So then it's like, okay, cool. I can test boundaries. I can work out how bad things can go. It's good. It's all right. Playing a game in England's really weird in terms of like I don't know why, right? So many like open world games are all set in America that my gaming brain is set to driving on the wrong side of the road. So we finally have a game where we're driving on the right side of the road, and I just end up on the wrong side. And by
right,
all
you
the
mean
fucking
left
time.
side?
Yeah, I end up in the right side all the time, and I'm like, this is wrong. And also not used to the English accents, and some of them are actually really bad. Like some of them are fucking terrible.
Ash warned you
like,
of this last week.
Yeah.
Like there's terrible English accents, and then there's terribly done English accents, and there's a lot of terribly done English accents.
Oi, copper!
You're like, oh, this
Oi,
is
cuz! Can't you tell I'm British?
That sounds like a Kiwi.
Is that a New Zealander?
Sounds like a New Zealander.
Kiwi,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly
like
what the accents sound like in the game.
Like, I got one guy that was like, I don't know, like there's one guy you automatically unlock called like Lucas or something that has a Z at the end of his name. Edgy. And he has a mohawk and stuff. But for me, he had like this like weird European accent that was like, I couldn't quite tell where in Europe he was from. It was just clearly not an English accent. And I was like, what is going on? It's just, it's
Wow.
but overall it's good.
Kieran doesn't want any Europeans immigrating into England, apparently.
No, I just, the European dialect can be, you can kind of tell where somebody's supposed to be from. Not just this weird, like, mangled version of one that you're like, what is going on?
This is what happens when...
Driving is very weird in the game is my only kind of point where it, like, it's like that not realistic, it's the arcadey kind of driving, but then at the same time, there is like no penalty to like just hooning down streets. Like there is almost like, because half the cars are autonomous, so you could just get into any car and just start driving them half the time. You don't have to break into it. You just kind of do it. You could like pass what is supposed to be the equivalent to like the police in the city, and they don't do shit about what you're doing.
It's like in Fast and
very
Furious
when you hit
Tokyo
somebody.
Drift, where if they see you're doing above a certain speed, then they don't chase you.
Well, it's just, I don't know. Like, there was this very... the cars just in general are just very odd, especially the AI for the car driver. I left my car in an underground car park for a mission earlier. I went and did the mission. When I came back, there was a small traffic jam inside the underground car park with, like, a bus in there and then all these other cars just blocking my car in. I was like, are you kidding? This is... And then I had to, like, use the missiles on my car to blow my way out.
Wow. All those innocent people dead.
Well, why were they just randomly in this car park or just parked
You
there?
could have just gotten a different car.
No, because it was my spy car that goes invisible. Jeez, Ashley, I've established that I'm only playing as one James Bond character, and she has a very specific car that is very just, yeah, it's cool. It's like an Aston Martin. It goes invisible, shoots missiles. I've already mentioned it, but it's really fun. But yeah, it is what it is. There's just stuff to do, and you're often like, some of the missions I am finding that I'm just like, oh, I can just send my spider bot in to just go do that mission.
Yeah.
Sweet. Go, spider bot. Go. I'll stay outside where I'm safe. And then spider bot just goes and...
I mean, it's a lot of fun, like setting traps and stuff, and then just walk straight into it, and then a bunch of people explode.
There is a lot of stuff. Unlike previous Watch Dogs games, there is a lot of stuff you just have access to straight away. That's just like, oh, okay, just everything explodes and everything can be freaking set as a trap.
Yep.
You're like, sweet. Easy. And half the time the trap just goes off straight away and kills somebody. And like, job done.
Have you played
Excellent.
much more Ash since last week?
Yeah, a fair bit. A little bit more. I've mostly been fiddling around, unlocking the burrows and that kind of stuff while doing some other stuff. So, yeah. I'm seeing a little bit of repetition of like recruiting people where you're doing the same thing. Like even to the extent like I've been in this exact apartment before.
Yeah.
This exact same lot doing the exact same thing. But, you know, I feel like that's kind of given how big the scope of this game is you're not going to have millions of different new missions for each recruitment thing. So But yeah, I'm finding some interesting people to potentially recruit. You can recruit a living statue person. There's a hypnotist apparently, so I'm looking forward to trying.
I've got the hypnotist lined up to recruit.
Yeah,
it's also annoying because I've just done all these like Fight Club missions. Like I did all of them in a
the
row
bare
just
knuckle
'cause I was
fights.
like, get them out of the way. But like I've accidentally got like a list of like 6 people now to recruit, and half of them I don't want to recruit. I just picked them by accident.
So you can.
So I thought it was
them.
like
you can take them off the list.
I've looked and I can't find how, and they're just chilling there.
Oh well, we'll just never recruit them.
No. I'll just never recruit them. They'll just always be there. Like the guy that's like every now and then I'll see them and be like, hey, you gonna recruit me? I'll be like, no.
No, what you do, you have them recruited, you have them on the list, but then if you save people from Albion throughout the mission, they'll just come to you. You don't have to do a recruitment mission. If you if you help enough of people who are related to them, then they come.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so they join DedSec. So that's a good thing.
So at this stage, I'm going to assume that you're probably just not playing until PS5 is out, right? Or do you reckon you'll play more before then?
Yeah, that'll be the case for me.
No, I'll probably play a little bit more. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was trying to find when everyone had a hissy fit early in the week because apparently on PS5, I think it's probably the same on Xbox, where they're like, it has a 4K mode, but it only runs at locked 30 with ray tracing on. And again, as I've said a million times before in this fucking podcast, everyone expecting 4K 60 frames a second plus ray tracing. You have never tried to run anything with ray tracing on your fucking PC in your life because you don't have one that can use it. Ray tracing is like one of the most hungry features available in gaming at the moment. So if you suddenly think these fucking $700 gaming boxes can do better than $2,000, $3,000 PCs, then you're fucking dreaming. So get over it.
Dylan, I've waited 8 years to buy this new console. It should be able to do all the things I want it to do at the same time.
All these things that PC has only started doing in the last year, basically. Year to 2 years. It should be able to,
2 years,
basically.
Yeah. Why'd you even bother putting it out if you can't do everything?
I actually think it's so.
Just what?
Quick tangent.
Just delay it another couple of years.
Quick tangent because I do love me some ray tracing. So watching Spider-Man Miles Morales ray tracing gameplay when the reviews came out, I am super fucking impressed. I think it is actually kind of a testament to the console, like especially PS5,
that
they can do an open world game that runs in 4K ray tracing with. Even though it's only 30 frames locked, but that's still fine. Like I think for most people, they're probably not going to notice. I mean, even I just said I'm probably going to play in that mode because it's Spider-Man, whatever. Like 60 frames does look smoother, but I would rather the ray tracing because ray tracing is very pretty and it's something that I've been a fan of ever since I started trying out different ray trace things and watching ray trace stuff. So I just think it is super impressive that console. Next generation consoles can even run open world games like that. It's fucking absolutely nuts. Anyway, Watch Dogs, ray tracing, cool. I was watching some gameplay of that with ray tracing early in the week as well. It does look very pretty because obviously it has that sort of neon vibe to the city, and there's lots of ray trace stuff like puddles and whatever for it to bounce off.
I hope
it looks quite good.
The game is, in general, when it goes to night, the game is very dark. So I hope that helps it a little bit. Not be so dark.
I would assume, possibly. I don't know. Well, I'll do it. So yeah, I mean, Xbox is tomorrow. A couple days later, you've got the PS5s. It's an exciting week, everyone. If you want to hear our first impressions of the PlayStation 5, we'll be putting up Platinum Explosion on Friday morning. We'll be recording our first impressions with the PS5, our first couple hours of having and checking that out that night. I'm sure we'll have more in-depth thoughts in the weeks coming ahead. Of course, I'll have my thoughts on the Xbox Series X on next week's Arcade Couch as well. But I would assume the next couple of weeks of Explosion Network podcast is going to be lots of just regurgitating, like building upon stuff we'll be talking about several times. But it's exciting. Next generation consoles. I'm excited. I feel like I'm actually trying to hold myself down from not being too excited because we do actually have to get through Monday before I get my hands on one. But it is an exciting time. Are we all excited? Are we all excited?
Hell yeah, let's go.
I mean, we still have to get through a whole week, pretty much. Though.
I mean, you do because you only went for PS5, but I'll at least have the Xbox
I mean,
on Tuesday.
Kieran's in the same boat.
Yeah,
I'm in the same
you
boat,
fucking
but
are.
at the same time, I get to live vicariously through others when it comes to the Xbox. You don't give a fuck about the Xbox.
it's funny because the Xbox at this stage is kind of like a tie over.
Oh, I probably could do the same thing and just be like looking up people like YouTube video of them quick resuming stuff, because that would be me for like just the first week of getting it. Will just be I can bounce between this stuff. I can bounce between this stuff. I could do this and this and this. And whatever people says at Buddy Watson, it's a cool thing. It's cool.
I mean, it makes more sense on the Xbox where you've got Game Pass, where you install more games and don't have.
I understand, like Dylan, Buddy mentioned today about it won't make much of a difference for people with physical media. I still think it will make a difference. I still think, my example would be, you're playing a disc single player game, you jump in, you want to play, Dylan jumps on and is like, hey dickheads, it's me, Xbox Dylan. Do you want to play Apex on the Xbox? And you're like, yeah, sure.
No, why would you be playing on your Xbox? That makes no sense.
Because it's cross-platform goodness with a superior controller that doesn't have crappy sticks.
You don't know what the PlayStation
I think,
DualSense
haven't they
controller?
said the PlayStation controller is more better this generation?
Is more better.
Perfect.
That's back of the box quote right there,
More
PlayStation. Take it or leave it.
I don't think any of us can say for sure at the moment if the DualSense is a good or bad controller.
It's just I will always give the PlayStation controller crap just because of the position of the analog sticks. It just
correct
always
position.
bothers me.
Again, they have been
the wrong
slightly adjusted. The DualSense is a brand new controller. You can decide if you hate it or not when you get it on Thursday. As for my Xbox controller, I'll be opening my Xbox Series X, putting the controller to the side to use for my PC because I'll just be hooking up my Elite controller too. Yeah.
Elite. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, 100%.
Even though it doesn't have the share button, but still, come on. That thing's too sexy not to. All right.
You sure you can't attach a share button to that?
No, unbelievably. I would assume that they're
Not yet.
I would assume they're
You could probably remap a button.
I would assume that's what you can do.
something.
But I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if they announce a Elite Series 3 in the next 12 months with a fucking share button and something else. But nonetheless, they'll do it for this week's episode of Arcade Couch. Of course, you can head to all of our Twitters by heading to explosionhour.com/Twitter. I'll take you to a list of all of our Twitters. You can let us know what you thought about your PS5, your Xbox Series X, or whatever as you pick them up throughout the week by heading to our Twitters and letting us know, or heading to your email box and emailing mail@explosionhour.com, or head to our Discord, explosionhour.com/Discord. And let us know what you think of the consoles in there. Until next week, have a great time if you're picking up a console this week. If you're not, if you missed out, I'm sorry. If you're going to wait to December, it'll be okay. Live vicariously through us and anyone else who are enjoying their consoles. I'm sorry, just don't get too down too much. If you decided not to get one because you're not sure if they're worth the money yet, we'll be sure to let you know.
They probably won't be, let's be honest.
Yeah, well, you're probably right. But I'm not ending this on note. They're definitely worth the money. It's exciting. Can't wait to talk about
You're just
that.
going to get up in the morning and tweet out some bullshit? No one wants to hear it. No one wants to see it. Fuck Donald Trump. 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 Fuck Donald Trump.